long and up pops something new. So we just go with the flow in that area. In my presentation, I'm more than happy to take questions as we go. So just shout out a question or raise your hand or something like that if you want to have a question as I go. I'm more than happy to cover that off rather than you guys waiting to the end. So without further ado, I'll make a start on agenda. What are we going to cover off today? So how do I become a candidate? What do I need to know about campaigning? And how does voting work? So before we start, I'll just do some key terms. So TCDCC, obviously this council, WRC Waikato Regional Council. An elector. Who is an elector? Is a person who is eligible to vote and who is enrolled. So the key thing is you must be enrolled to vote. So if you're 18 or 30 or something like that and you're not enrolled, then you won't be able to vote. So get yourself enrolled if you're not enrolled. The electoral roll is a list of electors who are either on the Māori or the general roll. The Māori electoral roll is a list of electors who are enrolled on the Māori roll. And the general electoral roll is a list of electors who are enrolled on the general roll. So on to some key dates. First one, we've passed actually, nominations open. They opened on the 4th of July. And the second one is they will close on Friday, the 1st of August at 12 noon. So that's your second key date. The third key date is when voting commences, and that will be on the 9th of September. That date is actually a little earlier than previous elections. We had a change in legislation last year, which lengthened the voting period. So it was previously 3 weeks. Now it's 4.5 weeks for the voting period. And that's really to compensate for mail delivery issues. I can leave it at that. So it gives people gives the postal service delivery longer to get mail out, enough people time to vote and to get it back to me by the close of voting, which is our fourth milestone there of close of voting at midday on Saturday, the 11th of October. We'll have progress results out later that afternoon. Preliminary results the following day on Sunday, the 12th, and our final results, our declaration of results on Friday, the 17th of October. And I'll talk a little bit more what they mean. What do those three results actually mean shortly? So some background information. TCDC has a population of around 32,500 people, of which 26,100 are electors. Of that 26,000, 23,213 are on the general roll and 1,732 are on the Māori roll. That totals just under 25,000 resident electors. So on top of that one, we have non-resident ratepayer electors. So these are the people that own property here, they pay rates here, but they do not live here. So that's what's called the ratepayer roll. That's not automatic. So just because you pay rates here, you do not automatically go onto the ratepayer roll. It is by application. And so far, it's an ongoing registration. So far, we have 1,157 non-resident ratepayer electors. And just up there, there's a website there for www.ratepayer.co.nz. That's a good resource for people to actually check whether they're eligible to go onto the ratepayer roll. And if they are, then there's an enrolment form that they can fill out and submit and all that sort of thing. So it's a really good resource for those non-resident ratepayers. So both the resident and the non-resident ratepayer roll closes on the 1st of August. We are continuing to use first past the post electoral system, and candidates are listed in alphabetical order. So council basically has a choice.
Sorry, interrupt you mid-sentence. So just thinking, with the high percentage, particularly on the eastern coast of non-resident ratepayers, is that 1,157, is that sort of looking at maybe Queenstown or other places where there's also high non-resident? Is that sort of good, bad, average?
It's actually quite good.
Okay.
The highest one is Auckland because it's so big. I think you're either 2 or 3 in the pecking order. But you're right, we have a high one in far north, Queenstown, Taupo, I think is another one as well. All the sort of places with holiday homes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a real hard one, because how do you get the message out there that, you know, you're not automatically going to get a vote, but hey, you can actually vote if you apply. So, but I'm not, every 3 years, we have to reassess the ratepayer roll every 3 years. It does peg down every 3 years. So it's really, you know, what is council doing to promote it, if anything, you know, that sort of thing. What should we be doing here?
Thank you.
So candidates are listed in alphabetical order, and as I was saying, councillors have a choice between alphabetical order, pseudo random order. So once nominations close, we randomise those candidate names, and that's what everyone gets. And the purely random order is every elector gets a different order on their voting document. So council's opted for alphabetical order, or continue with alphabetical order. With regard to the Waikato Regional Council, we also are required to hold their elections with our elections by law. First past the post electoral system is being used again, but in this case, Waikato Regional Council have randomised their order of candidate names. So what that means is the surname of candidates is going to be different on every voting document for the region. So what are we having elections for? We're having elections for the mayor, 10 councillors, 20 community board members, having a Māori ward poll, and 1 regional councillor. So breaking that down for this council, there are 9 general ward councillors from the 4 general wards, and you can see them there with the corresponding map. And then we have 1 Māori ward councillor from the 1 Māori ward, which is actually district wide. So that's your 5 wards, if you like. Also required to hold elections for 20 community board members. So that's from 5 community boards, electing 4 each. This there with the corresponding map to the right. And also Waikato Regional Council electors will either vote, depending on which role they're on, Thames Coromandel General Constituency electing 1, or the Māori constituency electing 1 as well. And both of those constituencies hold the whole of district. We are required to hold a Māori ward poll. So with new legislation that was enacted last year, any council that established Māori wards or constituencies since 2020 without holding a poll must undertake a poll with these elections. So there's about 43, I think it is, councils throughout the country that are required now to hold this poll. We've tried to keep the question simple. You can see a sample there to the right. I vote to keep Māori wards, I vote to remove Māori wards. So those phrases, and you'll tick one of those, those phrases are going to be consistent right across the country, so that every person that is required to undertake this poll has the same question, and the same background information is going to be included with the voting pack right across the country. Everyone will have the same background information and the same question, so there's no confusion. The poll is binding. So what that means is that the outcome of the poll will apply for the 2028 and 2031 triennial elections. So what it means is that the issue or the matter of Māori wards or constituencies cannot be revisited until after 2031, i.e. 2032. So if the outcome of the poll is to keep the Māori ward, then that will apply for the next 2 triennial elections, and that can only be revisited in 2032. And the same if it's voted to remove it, then there will be no Māori wards for 2028 and 2031. But regardless of the outcome of the poll, the Māori ward will be in place for the 2025-2028 term. So no matter what happens, we'll hold the poll, there will still be a Māori ward councillor for the term commencing 2025. There will be no Māori constituency poll for the regional council that fall outside of that criteria. They established their Māori constituencies 2012, I think it was, prior to the 2020 direction from the government. Any questions on the Māori ward poll before I move on? All clear? Right. Electoral system. Both organisations will be using first past the post electoral system. Pretty simple, nice and easy. There it is there. An illustration, vote by ticking the candidate names. Candidates with the highest number of votes wins. But don't vote for more candidates than there are positions. So if there are 3 positions, you can vote up to 3. You can vote 1, 2, and 3 positions, but don't vote for if there's only 3 vacancies. If you vote for more than the number of vacancies, that issue or that election is invalidated. Now, I've had a few questions about that. Doesn't mean the whole paper is invalidated. No, only that particular, I call it an issue or election, becomes invalidated because we don't know how the voter's intention is unclear because they've actually voted for more than their vacancies. On to candidate eligibility. Candidate must be a New Zealand citizen, aged 18 or over, enrolled on the parliamentary electoral roll anywhere in New Zealand. So you do not need to be on the parliamentary roll here. You can be anywhere in the country and stand here, but you must be nominated by 2 people, 2 electors on the roll in the area that you're standing for. So I've given an example. If you're standing for the Thames general ward, your nomination must be signed by 2 people enrolled on the general roll for the Thames ward area. So wherever that you're wanting to stand, you must be nominated by 2 electors from that respective role. You can stand for multiple positions if you really want to. It's fine, no problem there. You can stand for the mayor, you can stand for a council position, you can stand for a community board. So there's no issue there. But if you are elected, you're fortunate enough to be elected to more than 1 position, you take the highest. So if you stand for mayor and council, you get elected to both, you obviously take the middle one, and the next highest polling candidate comes up and takes the council position. You can't stand for more than 1 ward. So you've got to choose which ward am I going to stand for, where do I identify with and associate with, stand for that ward, but you can only stand for 1. And similarly, you can only stand for the district council or the regional council. Again, you can't stand for both, so you choose which one will I want to stand for and be more effective. Elected members or spouses cannot have contracts with council over 25,000 in 1 financial year without approval. So you actually can have a contract with the council, but there's an extra step that you have to take. You've got to go through almost an application with the Office of Auditor General to get approval to proceed and have that. So it's not a no, you can't. It is an awareness that if you do have a contract with council, there is extra steps that you have to take. So council employees, they can stand for office as well if they want to. If an employee is elected to mayor or council, they must resign. That's obviously a conflict of interest. So if you're a governance rather than an operations, that's a no. The aberration to that is that an employee who gets elected to a community board doesn't have to resign. So I'm not quite sure the logic there, but that's what the law says. But so you can actually still remain as an elected member of a community board and a staff. And finally on the slide, can't nominate yourself. So if you're wanting to stand, you've got to have 2 other people to nominate you, not yourself. Right, nomination process. First off, get one of these. I think, Jenny, you handed a number of these around, haven't you? We've got some on the table there. That's the candidate handbook. Got everything you need to know pretty much if you're wanting to stand as a candidate. So it's got your nomination criteria, your election signs, it's got your campaigning guidelines, it's got election offences. Read those. It's really important that you know what's in here, particularly election offences. There are a number in the Local Electoral Act that you need to be across. If you're not across it, fellow candidates are across it, and they'll soon pull you up and tell me about it to get it fixed. So it's all in the booklet. Have a read of it, and it's also available online through a PDF if you want to get a copy that way. So nominations opened Friday the 4th of July, as I said. 3 ways to submit your nomination. The first one is online. Now, we couldn't have done online nominations last time in 2022. We had a legislative change last year which enabled us to do that. It is the easiest way. There's the address there, esp.election services, etc. It's really, really simple to use. You log on, you register, you can come in, come out as you wish. You can do everything, absolutely everything online. There's no handwriting, no physical material at all. I'll come on to that in the next slide. Or secondly, you can download an editable PDF from the council's website. So that means that you can go on, you can download it, you can fill it out electronically, but you still must print and bring it in paper copy. And the third one, of course, is the good old fashioned paper copy. That one there. And we have a number here if you want to pick one of the paper ones up. Feel free to do so today. So just back to that online portal. As I said, there's no printing. There's no handwriting, which is a real plus for us because we've had so much trouble over the years trying to interpret you guys' handwriting. It's been quite a challenge because we have to come back to the candidate and say, what are you saying here? Because actually can't read what your writing is. So that's all gone with the portal because everything is typed. There's no scanning or anything like that. So you can enter your statement electronically. You have 150 words that you can tell us all about yourself, tell us the electors all about yourself. Type that in electronically. It'll do a word count, so you can only have a maximum of 150. But it will not do a spell check. And that's a deliberate thing. So what you submit to me gets printed and put out to all the electors. So warts and all. So if you put a candidate statement in of 150 words and there's spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and all that sort of thing, nothing to do with me. That's your statement and I will not fix it. Okay. So as I said, warts and all go out. So just a little warning there. So you can enter and upload your statement. You can upload your photograph. And the beauty of the portal is that it instantly will confirm your nominators. This has been a problem in the past where with a paper copy, it gets submitted and then we have to manually go and check that your two nominators are eligible. In other words, they're from the area that you're standing in. With the portal, you put your information in and it's linked back to the electoral roll electronically. And if your nominators are not in the role that you're standing for, it will stop and it'll say an ineligible nominator, get someone else. So it's a really good check right at the beginning of the process. What it is?
Do your nominators get listed or anywhere for other people to see? Or
good question. Your nomination paper, the front page, that page that I'm holding up, is a public document. So that has your name and address and the nominator's name and address. That can be viewed by any person at the council office. We do not go out and put it all on the website, for example. Okay, because it's available just by someone coming in and viewing it, but we don't proactively go out.
if you go online and do the nomination,
Yep.
it's still business.
Still, what we do is print out that
Okay.
for the council public inspection.
Yeah.
But just online, it does have that tick box where you check it for public or
Well, that's your,
Yeah.
sorry, that's your contact details, not your nominators.
okay.
So what it does is on the other side of the nomination, you've got contact details such as your postal address, your email address, your contact phone number, and alternate contact details. That's where you have your ability to have it private and media, advertising and events, and public. So if you tick public for everything, everything is public. It can go on the website because councils will be listing all the candidates. And if you have said you want all of those contact details in the public arena, they will go on the website. Okay. If you restrict it, we will adhere to what the candidate wants and only put up what the candidate has directed us to do.
Would that be just the name at the minimum?
Its minimum is name, affiliation if you have one, and the position you're standing for. So it might be, we have 7 candidates for Thames Community Board, for example. These are the names. So it's Thames Community Board. These are the names and these are the affiliations.
And that gets put up regardless.
Yeah, that's public information. Yeah. Okay, so go on to the next one. Each nomination that requires a $200 nomination deposit. So that's for each position you're standing for. If you're standing for board and community board, that's $400. That's $200 each. Most candidates actually get that back. It's a deposit. So if you poll greater than 25% of the lowest successful candidate, you get it back. Okay. I think it's really designed, it's a legislative thing. It's really designed to stop frivolous nominations and that sort of thing. There is a 150-word candidate profile statement I alluded to earlier. That is optional. You don't require to do that, but I strongly suggest all candidates submit that. You can have 150 words in English, and you can also have 150 words in Te Reo Maori, but they must be largely consistent. So it's like a translation. You can also have other languages if you want other languages, but there is a 150-word limitation for that. So as an example, you might want 50 words in English, 50 words in Mandarin, and 50 words in Hindi or something like that, depending on the makeup of your community. But all of those must total 150 words. Also optional, not mandatory, but we strongly encourage it, is your photograph. We suggest a recent passport size colour photograph. And I'll give you an illustration for shortly about a candidate who does not provide that, but I think it's really important that the profile statement and the photograph are submitted with your nomination, because that's what electors are wanting to see. I do stress recent, please. Recent means within the last 12 months for your photograph. Do not submit your photograph taken 10 years ago. We will send it back to you and say, this is not you now. Please resubmit within the last 12 months. Evidence of New Zealand citizenship. We do ask for that, just a copy of your passport or your birth certificate or your citizenship certificate. It's not a legal requirement for me to have that, but it's a safety thing for you guys as well as for me, because one of the legal requirements is you must be a citizen. We have had an instance a few elections ago where we're not requiring this proof, and we had a person elected as a councillor. When challenged, that person could not produce evidence of being a citizen. In fact, they were not a citizen. They came to New Zealand when they were 2, thought they were, and they weren't. When challenged, couldn't produce it. Invalid nomination, by-election. So that's the sort of thing we want to avoid with a very big ward and a very big by-election cost. So we now ask for that information. We do remove that information after the election, so we do not hold copies of your passports in our system. Once we're happy with it, we will remove that. So it gives you peace of mind as well. The candidates can declare an affiliation. An affiliation can be if you identify with a group or an organisation. You can assign that. So you might belong to a ratepayer association or a political party or any other form of group or association, and that's fine. We will accept that, but we will require evidence of support. So if you're wanting to stand for a major political party, for example, we will require evidence or a letter that they will permit you to use that affiliation. If we don't get that, we can't accept it, because we'll then be running foul of what can be accepted by groups. If you don't want to belong to have an affiliation aligning yourself to a group, you can use the word independent, and independent simply is independent. You're independent, you don't have any view, you don't have any linkages, or as in a lot of cases, people just leave that blank, so nothing will show. No affiliation, no word independent, just blank. And that seems to be quite common here in Thames Coromandel. There are some unofficial, some unacceptable affiliations that I won't accept. I don't accept a slogan, like the Dale, for example, won't accept that. That's not a group. And I don't accept anything that's indecent or slanderous for obvious reasons. Also required to include a statement on your principal place of residence. So on your nomination paper, it'll say, do you live within or without the area that you're standing in? You must tick that or complete that. And that's really, it goes on the, let's see if I've got a copy here. It goes in that little information booklet. And it says, my principal place of residence is in the Mercury Bay Ward area there. So one, or in or without. So that little piece of information goes out to the electors, and that just helps the elector. Well, is this person a local or whatever? Doesn't mean to say that you don't have to live in the area. You can live outside the area, but that information is conveyed to electors. Similarly, on the form is you must list any other positions you're standing for. So if you're standing for mayor and council, it goes in here. Person is also standing. So on the mayoral one, the person is also standing for the XYZ council. So it's just another piece of information for the electors to know a little bit about you. Nominations. Closing at 12 noon on the 1st of August. That's a Friday. Please, please, please don't leave it to the last minute. We've had nearly a month to lodge your nominations. Please do not strategically think that you're going to come in at 5 to 12 to surprise everyone. The problem with that is that there's an issue with your nomination paper and it's 5 to 12 and it closes at 12. You've got 5 minutes to fix it. Very, very hard to fix. Online, of course, you can't proceed unless your nominators are correct. But if on the paper one, if you bring it in at 5 to 12 and one of your nominators is not correct, then as I said, you've got 5 minutes to get it fixed. And I've seen it all. I've seen people coming in at 5-2, nominations incorrect. They're running down the street, shoulder tapping complete strangers, saying, "Would you nominate me?" And it's just not really that good. And there may be other issues with your nomination paper, so bring it in early so that we can get it checked. And you have that peace of mind as well. Once you bring it in, you can lodge it. You've got a peace of mind that yes, it's all approved and correct. Next one, this is just a couple of examples that I've got of what it should be for your nomination. So this candidate is standing for mayor. They have supplied an affiliation, which you don't need to, of course. Their principal place of residence is in the area they're standing for, which they don't need to do, but they have supplied a photograph and they have supplied a statement. So this is what goes out here, this little booklet here. The next slide, the next example is standing for mayor as well, not supplied an affiliation, which they don't need to. The principal place of residence is not in the area, that's fine as well. But more importantly, they have provided no photograph and no statement. And look at the difference between the first one and this one. And as an elector, it influences you how you vote. This person couldn't even be bothered showing us how they look, or what about if they get elected? What do they intend? Can't even be bothered doing that. So we strongly recommend that it's not compulsory, but we really strongly recommend that both those pieces of information are supplied. Okay, so voter eligibility. If you're on the general electoral roll, you can vote for 5 issues. So there you go, you can vote for the mayor, 1 to 3 general ward councillors, depending on where you live, 4 community board members where you live, 1 general constituent councillor for the region, and the Maori ward poll. So all those on the general roll, which is the majority here, will get to vote for those 5 issues. And if you go on to the next slide, for the Maori roll, 5 issues. So everyone's on the Maori roll will be voting for the 5 issues. So you'll vote for the mayor, you'll vote for the 1 Maori ward councillor, which is district wide, 4 community board members, depending on where you live, the 1 Maori constituency for the region, and the Maori ward poll. So whatever role you're on, you vote for the respective ward and poll, and basically the 5 issues. Any questions so far on that? There is mud. Good. Campaigning. So campaigning can occur at any time. So you could be campaigning now, no issues there at all. There is a science policy or a election signs policy, where signs can basically go up anytime, so there's no restriction. Many councils across the country have a policy that restricting it to 3 months or 2 months or 9 weeks or whatever it is beforehand, but this council doesn't have any policy on that one. And signs must be removed within 10 days after election day. So all signs must be removed by the 21st of October. Again, a number of councils across the country have a policy that they all must be removed by midnight the day before, for example, the election day. So there's nothing appearing on election day, but that's really a hangover, I think, from the old days when it was polling booth days and you couldn't have any signs or anything up on the one day that you voted for polling booths. Remember, signs can only be erected on private property with the landowner's consent. No signs on public land, on reserves, on power poles, anything like that that's owned by the council. That's not on, so they must be restricted to the private property with the landowner's consent. If you're going to be doing any promotion, yes.
I'm interested you say that because I got assured in the last election that person had permission to put it on if it's either regional council or what Whakatāhi's infrastructure. Are you saying that's not allowed?
I couldn't see anything in your bylaws to do that. I can be corrected, but nothing popped out when I read it. Jenna, do you have any view on that or?
For MBTA.
It was on a state highway, but it was also on a fence securing a regional council drainage canal. It was probably also, you know, maybe an old mining site as well.
Regional council would frown upon that because none of the council property can be used for campaigning.
Yes, like schools and hospitals.
Yeah.
But we could certainly look into that, but I'm pretty sure it's not permitted on anything other than private property.
So about only private property. So can you have a photo of you standing in front of something that is owned by council or?
No, that is deemed using a council resource, being the background as a council resource.
So you couldn't put a picture of the council building up and say, I haven't. Somebody else has.
Rethink your whole campaign.
Any other questions on that issue so far? Okay, good. So if you're standing for office, you'll likely be doing some form of campaigning, some form of advertisements, which is great. Get your name out there, get your name recognition. But if you are, every advertisement that you do must have an authorization statement on. It's a must. It's a legal thing. So basically, anything that you put out must have authorized by your name or your agent's name and a contact detail. So the contact detail could be a phone number, an email address, a website, a PO box, a property address. In the past, it had to be your residential address. That's gone. It's too dangerous, considered too dangerous to have your residential address plastered everywhere in the public arena. So now it's restricted. Now it's been allowed to have other contact details. Be careful if you're using your mobile number, for example. It will be the same criteria. It will be made public out there. And really, do you want people ringing your mobile number, your personal mobile number at 1 a.m. in the morning? You might want to get a separate SIM card for your phone, or you might want to just not make that available. Have an email address, which is a lot safer. So it's over to you what you want to do, but just some fish hooks in there. So if you're doing any signs or notices or pamphlets or letterbox things with letterbox drops or anything like that, have a vehicle with your messaging all over it, or web pages, it must have that authorization statement on it. Okay. Most or many of the complaints that I get as the electoral officer is so-and-so hasn't got their authorization statement. What are you going to do about it? It's an awkward one because it actually is a legal thing. So in many cases, I say that must be removed. And someone who's just printed 10,000 flyers for letterboxes, they have to get binned. And that has happened. And they've had to reprint with the authorization statement on. So just make sure that does appear. If it's on your website, have a campaign website, put it on your main page. You do not need to put it on every post or tweet or message or anything like that. That's becomes unreasonable, but put it somewhere that we can identify, there's your authorization statement on your website. Social media, great way to campaign, instant, far-reaching, and more importantly, it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. You can promote yourself and your policies and whatever you want to say to get your message across. Council's media channels are off limits. Okay, so council's Facebook is not a medium for you to start linking and putting political messages and that sort of thing. The minute anything like that comes onto council's Facebook page, it's removed. So council must remain neutral. In any election, they must remain neutral as an organisation. And when we're conducting a poll, council must remain neutral. Council itself does not have a view on yes or no for the poll. That's quite clear, and I've made that quite clear. But individuals can, and individuals will. So you'll have a view on certain things, and that's fine as an individual, but the council organisation is neutral. Cybersecurity, keep safe. It's been around for a while. Computers can be hacked and that sort of thing. So just an awareness out there. It's a nasty world out there, actually, and candidates, you have to just be aware and take necessary steps to safeguard yourself. Be mindful of the election offences. As I said, they're in here. Read them. It's really important for your safety. On to donations. No limit to what you can get. People can give you whatever they like for your campaign. So there's no monetary limit. The only limit is if something is anonymous, truly anonymous. If that's the case, you can only have a limit of $1,500 that's anonymous. Anything over $1,500 comes to me, not me personally, but for the council. So if you get 2,500 anonymous, it has to be truly anonymous. You keep $1,500 and declare it, but the other $1,000 comes to me and goes off to council. But there is a limit to what you can spend. It's more importantly. So what you can spend on your campaign is restricted to what you're standing for. So for example, for the mayor, if you're standing for the mayor, there's a population of 30, so it goes on population bands, population of 32,000 population. So your limit is $20,000. So as you can see there, it goes through whatever one you wanting to stand for. Thames General Ward, $7,000 is what you can spend. Thames Community Board, 14,000. That seems, I know why. With the Thames General Ward, it's general population only, so we have to take the Maori electors out, the Maori population out. But with the Thames Community Board, it's general and Maori together. That's why there's a difference, and it kicks over into the next set.
Standing for two.
Okay, if you're standing for two, you cannot add them together. That's another good question. So you might want to stand for the mayor and the Thames General Ward. You don't have $27,000 to spend. You take the highest of the two. So if you're standing for both of those, your maximum is $20,000. Okay, so next one, thanks. So expenditures include GST. Just bear that in mind. If you're sailing close to the wind with your limit, must include GST and not say, $19,990 plus GST. Then you're over the limit and therefore an offence has been committed. Can't add them together. So we'll cover that one off. There is a return, a form that is attached.
Go, sorry.
If you're gifted something to generate money for your campaign, is that still fine?
If something, sorry?
If you're gifted something to sell to generate money
Yep.
for your campaign, that's still okay.
You must account for situations like that at reasonable market value. So you have to say, what is the reasonable market value of this painting or something that was
It would
gifted?
be an artwork.
Yeah. So you do have to account for it as a reasonable market value.
So you'd have an option.
Yep.
And so.
And the money coming in,
Yeah.
well, money coming in there's no limit to money coming in, but expenditure going out, there is a limit. Yeah. And that's where the reasonable market value comes in for going out. But as an example, you might have a brother-in-law, for example, that is a printer and prints all your flyers for letterbox drops, for example. You can't just ignore that. You have to take a reasonable market value of that product that he's provided or she's provided, because that's an expenditure that you're not having to pay for. So therefore, you've got to have a reasonable market value. Yeah.
One more question about.
Yep.
I recently read all of them from the last election because I was quite curious as to what people were spending. And there was quite a variation of what people were putting in. And some people put their $200 deposit as an expense, and some people put the photo that they put as their candidate photo as an expense. But I would, consider those an election expenses. Do you have a comment on that?
I certainly do. The Act excludes certain things that you do not need to include. One of them is your nomination deposit. One of them is the timber framing for a election sign. And the third one is voluntary labour. So there's 3 exemptions that you do not need to include. Yeah, I'm not quite sure about your photo. Probably you do. I'm always of the view, if in doubt, put it in. Be transparent, because this is a public document. People will be poring over it, the media in particular. You do not want to be tripped up with a challenge or something like that. So I guess that's my last couple of points there. This form needs to be returned to me by the 11th of December. That one there. If you don't spend anything, you need to put nil in there and still return it to me. So it's a legal requirement that I have one of these from every candidate, and every one of these goes on the council website. Extremely transparent. So my last point there is make sure it's accurate. Don't try and fudge anything or anything like that. Just put it all in. If in doubt, just put it in. Most, if not all, candidates don't go near the limit, the dollar limit. So just put everything in. I think for transparency, it would be my advice. Because that document must be available for 7 years. So it's not as if it's a 5-minute wonder and after the election it gets taken down, that sort of thing. Anyone can inspect that for 7 years. On to voting. Voting period 9th of September to the 11th of October, that's 4.5 weeks. Voting packs delivered to electors 9th to the 22nd of September. It's now 14 days to deliver rather than it used to be 6. You're able to campaign up until including election day. A lot of people say, oh, election day morning, can I still campaign? Yes, you can, because voting is still open. Special votes, they'll be available to all council officers during the voting period. So a person who wishes to have a special vote, and it might be someone who just doesn't receive it, an ordinary vote, they may have moved addresses and the ordinary one's gone to their old address, they're on the unpublished roll, they've just turned 18. All those categories are eligible for a special vote. So they're available from all council officers during the voting period for electors to collect one. I do restrict that special votes are issued to individuals. Please, as candidates, do not come to me or to my deputy and ask for, can I have 20 special votes for this ward because I'm going door knocking or something like that and I want these 20 votes to have available. The answer is clearly no. Each person must request a special vote individually to either myself, our call centre, or our electoral officials. Which leads me on to the next one. Candidates not to collect votes from electors. Okay, each elector is required by law to return their own vote. Don't think that you're doing a great community service by going to rest homes and that sort of thing to assist them to help the aged and infirm. That's not your role. It's an offence to have in your possession someone else's voting document. So bear that in mind. Just don't do that. Let the rest homes deal with that themselves without candidates interfering. Voters can post their votes back through the postal system if you're putting in the post no later than the Tuesday the 8th of October, but also we're going to have ballot boxes in all the council offices, plus for the first time we're having 2 mobile units going around the district. Do you want to talk about that, Jenna, or shall I carry on? Okay. So it's the first this time. We're going to, the details aren't finalised yet, but we're going to have 2 mobile booths just going around at pre-arranged places and times so that people can then, it's a bit like the Mr. Whippy, I suppose. Here's the vote box here. We can run out and put it in at a certain prearranged time. It's just another service because, you know, New Zealand Post services continuing to decline. Street receivers are continuing to be removed and all that sort of thing. So we're just trying to do our best in that area. Voting closes at 12 noon on Saturday, the 11th of October. Again, it's a 12 o'clock sharp. That's it. If you come in at 12:05 running in with your vote because you ran out of petrol or problems or whatever it is, don't care. 12 o'clock's the time. That's it. And if you come in at 12:01, we cannot accept it. If you do slip it under the door, and I have that happen all the time, under the door, we simply scoop it up, mark it, received out of time. We cannot accept it. On to voting, we prepare a daily return schedule. That's it there. That'll come out every day over the voting period. That just basically tells you the number of voting votes that have been received each day by local board area, by community board area. Okay. And that's really quite a good resource. It goes up on the council website and candidates can see how things are tracking, which community boards are getting a good return, or which, you know, may need a little bit more encouragement to vote. Results nearly there. Progress results on election day afternoon about 90%, so about 2 to 3 p.m. You'll get a progress results, which will be everything except for the votes delivered on that Saturday morning. So we'll include the postal ones, but not the hand delivered ones, and special votes. The next day, on the Sunday, you'll have a preliminary result, which will include all the votes hand delivered on the Saturday, but exclude special votes. And then by the following Friday, we'll have the official declaration, the final results, which will be absolutely everything, including special votes. We have a process for special votes. There's a declaration for a special vote. That has to go down to the Electoral Commission. They have to validate whether the person is eligible to vote or not. If they are eligible to vote, they've done the necessary paperwork, we will then open that special vote. If they're not eligible to vote, we leave it sealed and just put it to one side and it goes off to the board. So all results will be available on council websites. Candidates will be advised, and elected members will take office on the day after the public notice. So if we declare results on Friday the 17th, then elected members take office and will get paid from Saturday the 18th of October. But of course, an elected member cannot act until they've been officially sworn in, and that's scheduled for I believe, the end of October for that. So you'll be getting paid, but you won't be able to act until you've done your oath. So just by way of resources, candidate handbook, legislation, have a read of that. Pre-election report, Aileen will be talking about that shortly. That's a really good document as well. Attend a council meeting. Want to hear all about it? Look at the issues and all that sort of thing that goes on. Read agendas and minutes. They're all available online, or talk to a council staff member. Some of them are here today. And then that's it from me. That's just our contact details. So that's me there. I'm based in Auckland. There's my email address and 0800 number. And my deputy here is Don, sitting at the back there from the council. And there's her details. There's showing there. And more than happy to take any questions. Ring me, email me, whatever you want to do. If you've got any questions about anything, I'm more than happy to talk to you on a one-on-one basis. You want to.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Aileen Murray, Chief Executive of the Council. I'm not infectious. I might sound like I am, but I can assure you I was infectious a week ago, not today, but still trying to get my lungs back into some sort of shape. Yeah, so just a few things from the organisation, especially this one, to step you through the district. This is our district. I imagine you're all very familiar with it. Quite a complex district from a local government perspective, and a really, really interesting district from a local government perspective. So we have our 4 wards with our 5 community boards. We're quite complex as far as local government goes. We're one of the most evolved local governments in New Zealand, us in Southland. Possibly have a similar structure with the number of community boards, and our community boards have quite significant delegations relative to the rest of local government. some statistics, which you can read about in the pre-election report, also makes us an interesting district. So I think on a Wednesday night, we have that 33,000 population roughly. On a Saturday night, we swell to about 70,000, and through that Christmas break, we are sort of upwards of the 100,000 population. So that makes it quite an interesting district to try and provide the services that local government has to provide, because we have to be able to cope with those with that surge capacity, but still run it at that kind of Wednesday night sort of population level. So makes it a very interesting job being on governance in our organisation. Yeah, so as a consequence of the number of visitors we have and the population, we have an awful lot of assets. We're actually worth around $2 billion as an organisation. And when you think about many of our companies that are listed on the stock exchange, some of them are probably smaller than that in the top 40. So we spend about 150 million a year in operational spending, again, making us a fairly sizable entity. I did also, start with the recent data. Yep, so 99 public toilets. I did ask somebody to get me that number. And
I think we dropped 100.
no, not well, we've got another one being built.
Okay.
Anyway, 99 public toilets. We have the most public toilets per head of population of any council in the country. And I did ask for a number on bollards, and I think it's something like 27,000. So I hate to think how far up the scale we are on that. But that just goes to show that we provide an awful lot of stuff for our community. So this is our structure around how we work. The green bit there at the bottom, that's the neutral organisation, and we service the 5 community boards, and we service the council. So the council tends to deal with the bigger matters, more strategic stuff, and the district-wide type matters. And then the community boards have a strong role locally. They've got delegations to look after budgets, and they've got authorities and decision-making powers in the local level. So what's involved as an elected member? Shortly, you're going to see a video from done by Sue Wells, and she says it so well. I'll probably leave most of it to her because she says stuff I can't say actually. But from a staff perspective, what we do is we provide you agendas for meetings, and agendas about that thick are probably quite common every 6 weeks. And if I could just introduce you to Ari at the back here. Ariana Hay is our governance manager, and she's the one that signs out these many agendas. So we have the 5 community board agendas going out every 6 weeks. We have council, we have a risk insurance committee, and currently we have a sustainability committee as well. And every 6 weeks, each one of those committees has a meeting with plenty to read and plenty of interesting things going on. Really important to have relationships with your fellow elected members, and Sue will speak more to that on the video. Coming to council, I think it's really important to come with an open mind, but that doesn't mean an empty mind. Each of our elected members is shaped by their experiences in their lifetime, and bringing that experience to the table with that open mind is the requirement for compliant decision making. We do some other neat things. We do briefings, workshops, and the best event I would advocate is the citizenship ceremonies. They're just lovely events, and it's a privilege for us to be able to do those for the community. Thank you. You will, if you're elected, have a pretty robust induction process whereby we step through the 150 odd bits of legislation that we administer. I worked out yesterday, we have roughly two staff members per statute that we actually administer. There is an awful lot of constraint in local government around what we do. As the incoming council comes in, the first thing they'll have to do is sign off the annual report of the previous council. And then fairly much be into an annual plan update, as well as the beginning of the next long-term plan update. This time we hope to do a better job with our community boards in terms of their engagement in that long-term plan. We also will provide technology, a council email address, which is really important that our elected members use the council email addresses rather than putting their own personal email at risk if we have information requests. anything that's council business related can be requested by folk, and it's much easier if it sits inside a council system. And ward tours, that's really neat thing for us to be doing too. Right, so most people coming into local government don't do it for the salary, and but here they are. This is updated as of 1 July, when new salary numbers will be coming into effect. The council doesn't set its own salaries; they're set by what's called the Remuneration Authority, and that's an independent body that has a look at population, demand, delegations, that sort of thing, sets the salaries for councils across the country. Interesting thing for us is that our community boards pay quite a bit more than most other community boards around the country, which just reflects the significant authorities and delegations they have. There are a range of allowances for elected members of a range of different things, but we've just put up here the latest one, which is security. And you will have noticed when you come in today that we've got security out here. And that's because we're seeing an increase in threats and risk to elected members and staff, just from community and disaffected folk. So that's come in across the country now as an allowance for the next triennium. Childcare allowance, IT allowance, mileage, travel time, etc. Oh, and probably just one last thing. It's really important that there's a sort of a level playing field for all all people standing in the election. So one of the things Ari's done is building a place on our website where questions can be posted. So if a candidate asks a question of the organisation and it's useful information for all candidates, we will post it on the website. So do keep a track of that, because that could be a quite useful place as a repository of information going forward. So that includes the incumbents. If they're asking us questions that we think have broader application, that will also go up on that website for you. Thank you, and we'll leave you on Sue's hands now. Sue will appear, we hope, in the induction process, because she's very good at it.
I was waiting for questions. Good tato. My name's Dave Dogger and I'm the Deputy Electoral Officer of Waikato Regional Council. And my day job is I'm the Governance Manager of City Council. So what I'm going to talk about today, the good news is I'm not going to cover the election process because it's exactly the same. All of the same rules apply. We sit under the same legislative requirements. There's just a few minor differences that I'll come to shortly. But what I will talk about is what we do. So what Regional Council does is obviously we function in a larger area and we are responsible for natural resources. So when we talk about water, we're not talking about three waters, we're not talking about wastewater, we're not talking about stormwater. We are talking about water that are in the rivers, streams, stuff like that. So organisations come to us when they want to take water or discharge water. And it's as simple as that, really. The grey area, of course, because there's always one, is we are responsible to a large degree for flood protection and land drainage. We also look after biodiversity and biosecurity. So anyone that's heard of the Cordova clan, that's on us now. That's in the river, and I heard the other night Paranui as well. We have a large chunk of work at coastal and marine. We're currently working on the marine plan. We've had hearings in your district actually quite recently on that, and we provide the harbour master services as well. We talk a lot about sustainable development and infrastructure, transition to a low emissions economy. So that's resource management, taking care of our environment, trying to make sure that our resources are used wisely and that they're protected. And largely, I always leave this one to last because it's one everyone seems to talk about. Community connections is the provision of public transport. And that's not just the buses you see going backwards and forwards, or that you don't see going backwards and forwards, depending on where you live. That's also the total mobility scheme for people with disabilities. So the reason some of this is going past to a regional organisation than a district is that we try to be boundaryless. So for example, with the public transport buses, we want the buses to traverse multiple councils' catchments. Next slide. Here we go. So our area is really big. So obviously Thames Coromandel right at the top up there, but we go right to the bottom of Taupo, and from Moko on the west coast all the way around. It's a huge area. It's split into 6 constituencies, and obviously some of the councillors do a fair bit of travel. Yep, next one. There we go. A bit of information about the region. Just under 500,000 people live in the Waikato region, and we produce just under 10% of New Zealand's GDP, but in dollar terms, that's just under $24 billion. And of course, a lot of that can be attributed to rural. The employment rate as of 2023 is about 64%, and the median age is about 37 years, so slightly younger than your district. And if anyone's got any questions, just holler as I go. It's all good. The region is broken into a number of constituencies. What I'll talk about today is, of course, Thames Coromandel, which is our constituency, gets me every time, makes up your entire district. There's also our Māori constituencies. We have 2 of those, and the Thames Coromandel is captured in the huge one that goes to the bottom of Taupo, with the other smaller one capturing Hamilton in the North Waikato. Slide. And now we're into the fun stuff. So back to the elections. We will be seeking election of 14 members, 12 from our general constituencies and 2 from our Māori constituencies. Locally, that, as I've just said, relates to 1 for the Thames Coromandel constituency and 1 for the Māori constituency. big difference between regional council and district council is you do not vote for the mayor or chair. At our inaugural meeting, the 14 elected councillors, one of their first functions after being sworn in is to appoint a chair. And the reason for that is because the region's so broad, if we did an at-large vote for our chair, it'd be a Hamilton person every time, whereas this gives everybody a fair bite of the apple. The chair role is mostly full-time and then some. And the councillor role varies depending on the number of responsibilities. So it depends on the workload you pick up. Obviously, we've got a number of committees and things that our members sit on. Our council meets monthly on the last Thursday. Meetings can take as long as they take, really. Sometimes it can be 2 or 3 hours, sometimes more. Our agendas, I'm afraid, aren't any thinner than the district council. So you can measure them in inches. We prefer not to print them if we can help it, because once you start carrying 2 or 3 of them around, you're not far away off a wheelie suitcase. Remuneration for our elected members, the chair, this has just been updated. The chair is just 169k, just over now. Deputy chair, 86k. A committee chair, depending on the role, is between 76 and 80k. And a councillor is 66k. Bearing in mind that most of our meetings are held in Hamilton, so the constituency councillors often do travel to Hamilton for those meetings. I'm getting quicker at this every time. And for more information, everything I've covered is also captured in our candidate handbook, which is in the teal coloured folders over there. But Paula, if you've got any questions, just let us know.
Can you be on both district and city council?
No, you've got to choose. You cannot stand for both at the same time either. You have to choose one or the other. So you've kind of got to choose your camp before you get started. Anything else? There you go.
Turning up to the briefing session, I'd like to thank Dale, Dave and Aileen for coming to speak to us. I'd like to do a closing karakia to formalise our meeting. We'd all like to see it, please. Te whaka e tanga e, te whaka e tanga e, tēnei te kaupapa ka ia, tēnei te wānanga ka ia, te mauri o te kaupapa ka whakamoia, te mauri o te wānanga ka whakamoia, kua ke runga, kua ke rau, ame e, hui e, tai. Kia ora. Thank you. That's good. There's some hot beverages in the cooler there, so please help yourself.
Clean.